chilling voice memo meant for her lover landed in her husband's inbox. I wish he'd just die so I can cash out. He's clueless. Elena's words shattered Carlos' world, exposing her affair and a plot to steal millions. But Carlos, a tech genius, didn't break. He planned a devastating, legal revenge that would unravel her lies in front of everyone. Buckle up for a story of betrayal, cunning, and justice that'll leave you questioning trust itself. Carlos Rivera leaned back in his chair, the hum of Miami's skyline pulsing through the floor-to-ceiling windows of his cybersecurity firm's downtown office. At 35, he built a $20 million empire safeguarding the digital secrets of corporations and governments. But his proudest moments weren't in boardrooms. They were on the soccer field, coaching his 7-year-old daughter Sophia's team, her gap-toothed grin lighting up every goal. His life with his wife, Elena, felt like a steady rhythm. 10 years of marriage, shared dreams, and a charity they'd founded together to send underprivileged kids to college. That morning, October 2025, a notification pinged on his phone. A voice memo from Elena. She often sent snippets, Sophia's latest art project, grocery run updates, or playful reminders about dinner. Carlos tapped play, expecting her familiar warmth. Instead, a blade of ice cut through the air. Mateo, I can't wait any longer. Elena's voice hissed, low and venomous. I wish Carlos would just drop dead so I can cash out. He's so clueless, still thinking I love him. I've been siphoning money from the charity for months, and he hasn't noticed a dime missing. Carlos froze, his thumb hovering over the pause button. His pulse thudded in his ears. This wasn't meant for him. Mateo, her co-worker at the charity, the charming volunteer always lingering at board meetings. The words kept coming, each one a precise strike. The scholarship fund's down $200,000 already. By the time he figures it out, we'll be set. God, he's pathetic, droning on about Sophia's future while I'm moving money right under his nose. The memo ended. Silence roared. Carlos' fingers moved instinctively, a reflex honed by years of securing sensitive data. He forwarded the file to his private server, then to an encrypted cloud drive. Seconds later, another ping. The memo vanished from his phone. Elena had realized her mistake. His phone buzzed again, her name on the screen. Hey, Carino, she cooed, voice dripping with honey. My phone's been acting weird, sending random audio. Did you get anything strange? Carlos exhaled, steadying himself. He'd built a career on staying calm under pressure. Nope, just your usual sweet messages, he lied, matching her tone. Oh, good. She laughed, airy and practiced. You know how tech hates me. I was at the community center with Mateo, talking about the literacy program. He's been such a help. Carlos' jaw tightened. Mateo Vargas, the man she'd just confessed her betrayal to. Glad he's pitching in, he said, voice smooth as glass. Maybe we should have him over soon. Sounds like he's earning it. A beat of silence, then her quick recovery. Great idea. He'd love that. The call ended, and Carlos stared at his phone, the weight of her deception sinking in. Sophia's face flashed in his mind, her crayons scattered across the kitchen table, her drawings of their family with hearts and lopsided smiles. She believed her parents were a team. So had he, until 6 minutes ago. He pressed the intercom. Lena, get Valeria Cruz on the line. Urgent. His assistant, efficient and discreet, patched through his lawyer within minutes. Valeria, a shark in Miami's legal waters, listened as Carlos outlined the memo's contents. This isn't just an affair, he said, voice low. She's stealing from kids who need that money for college. I need a plan, and I need it airtight. Valeria didn't hesitate. Meet me at my office tomorrow, 8 a.m. Bring the memo. We'll start digging. Carlos hung up, his mind already shifting into the mode that had built his company. Calculate, strategize, execute. He opened his laptop and accessed the charity's financial dashboard. Elena had administrative access, handling community outreach while he focused on partnerships. He'd trusted her reports implicitly. Now he saw the cracks, small discrepancies in fund transfers, labeled as program expenses. His fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling data into a secure folder. By evening, Carlos walked into their Coral Gables home, the air thick with routine normalcy. Sophia barreled into his arms, giggling about her day at school. Elena kissed his cheek, her smile flawless, as she stirred a pot of arroz con pollo. Long day, she asked, all warmth. Same old, he replied, forcing a grin. Sophia tugged him to see her latest drawing, a family picnic under a rainbow. That's us, Poppy, she beamed. Carlos hugged her tightly, his resolve hardening. Elena's betrayal wasn't just against him. It was against Sophia, against every kid their charity was meant to help. He wouldn't let her destroy that. After bedtime stories, Carlos retreated to his home office. He installed a single motion-triggered camera, wired to a private server, its feed accessible only to him. No audio, legally safe, ethically clean. If Elena was plotting with Mateo, he'd catch it. As he locked the setup, his phone pinged again. A text from Elena. "Night, love. Can't wait for our anniversary next week." He stared at the words, her performance so convincing it chilled him. But Carlos Rivera didn't break under betrayal. He built firewalls. And Elena was about to learn how unbreakable they could be. Carlos Rivera sat in Valeria Cruz's sleek Miami law office, the morning sun cutting sharp angles across the conference table. Valeria, a veteran attorney known for dismantling fraud cases, pored over the voice memo Carlos had saved. Her colleague, Diego Morales, a forensic accountant with a knack for tracing hidden funds, tapped at his laptop, pulling up the charity's financial records. "This is dynamite," Valeria said, pausing the audio. "Elena's not just cheating, she's orchestrating a heist. We need to move fast but quiet." Carlos nodded, his mind racing. The sting of Elena's words from yesterday's memo still burned, but he channeled it into focus. "She mentioned $200,000 already moved," he said. "I want to know where it went and how deep this goes." Diego's screen lit up with transaction logs. "Here's the first red flag," he said, pointing to a series of transfers labeled Youth Outreach Grants. Over 18 months, $500,000 had flowed from the Children's Education Fund to an entity called Bright Futures Initiative. "It's a shell," Diego confirmed. "Registered to an address in Hialeah, no staff, no programs." The funds bounced from there to personal accounts linked to Mateo Vargas. Carlos clenched his fists. Mateo, the man Elena laughed with about bleeding him dry, was no bystander. He was her partner in crime. Valeria leaned forward. "We need more than this memo. If we're taking her down, we need her on record planning the next move. Video, audio, something undeniable." Carlos, a cybersecurity expert, knew exactly what to do. "I've already placed one camera at home," he said. "I can add more, fully encrypted, no audio in private spaces to stay legal." Valeria approved. "Do it. But you need to give her space to slip up. Tell her you're leaving town, business trip. She'll feel safe to act." Carlos saw the logic. Elena's guard was up with him around. A fake trip would loosen her leash. That afternoon, Carlos drove to an electronics store in Dade County, purchasing 3 additional motion-triggered cameras, small, discreet, and wired to his private server. Back home, while Elena was at her supposed yoga class, he installed them. One in the living room where Sophia played, one in the kitchen where Elena often took calls, and one in the hallway leading to his office. Each feed routed through multiple encrypted backups, unhackable even by his own standards. He tested the system, watching live footage of Sophia coloring at the dining table, oblivious to the storm brewing. At dinner, Carlos played his part. "Big client in Atlanta needs me for a 3-day pitch," he announced, cutting into his bistec empanizado. "Could be a $3 million contract." Elena's eyes flickered with something. Excitement, not concern. "That's huge, Carino," she said, squeezing his hand. "Sophia and I will have a girls' weekend, right, Mija?" Sophia nodded, spooning flan. "Can we watch Encanto again?" Carlos smiled, his heart twisting. "Anything you want, princessa." Elena's performance was flawless, but Carlos saw through it now. Every word calculated, every touch a lie. By Friday morning, Carlos packed a suitcase, kissed Sophia goodbye, and drove off, only to double back to a rented condo in Coconut Grove, 15 minutes away. Valeria and Diego met him there, setting up monitors linked to the home cameras. "If she meets Mateo at your place, we'll have them," Valeria said, adjusting a screen. Carlos stared at the feeds, his living room, empty but waiting. "What if she doesn't take the bait?" he asked. Diego smirked. "She will. People like her can't resist an open field." At 7:42 p.m., a silver Audi pulled into Carlos' driveway. Mateo Vargas stepped out, carrying a bottle of wine from Carlos' own collection, reserved for special occasions. The living room camera caught Elena opening the door, her arms wrapping around Mateo with an urgency she'd never shown Carlos. 3 days without him, she laughed, pouring the wine. "We're so close, Mateo. Another $300,000, and we're gone. Bermuda, maybe Aruba." Mateo raised his glass. "To you, the mastermind." He's got no clue. Carlos watched, jaw tight, as they toasted his ruin on his own couch. The cameras rolled, capturing every word. Elena outlined their next move. Transfer another chunk from the charity before its annual audit. We'll push it through Bright Futures again, she said, scrolling through her phone. I've got the board eating out of my hand. They'll sign off on anything. Mateo grinned, pulling her close. And the divorce? You'll play the heartbroken wife, right? Elena nodded, practicing a fake sob. I'll say he neglected me, buried in work. The judge will eat it up, and I'll get Sofia plus half his fortune. Carlos' blood boiled, but he stayed silent, letting the evidence pile up. Valeria scribbled notes, her eyes gleaming. This is gold, she whispered. They're planning future crimes in real time. Diego cross-referenced their words with bank records, confirming new transfers initiated that morning. By midnight, the feed showed Elena and Mateo sprawled on the couch, plotting how to stage her emotional distress for the divorce. I'll see a therapist, Elena said. Get a paper trail of trauma. Carlos won't fight. He hates conflict. As the night wore on, Carlos felt Sofia's absence like a weight. She was at her abuela's, safe from this betrayal, but he ached for her innocence. He turned to Valeria. How much more do we need? She met his gaze. Enough to bury them. Keep the cameras running. By Sunday, we'll have a case no lawyer can crack. Carlos nodded, his mind already shifting to the next phase. Elena thought she'd outsmarted him, but she'd walked straight into his trap. The anniversary party was a week away, and he'd make sure it was one she'd never forget. Carlos Rivera sat in the Coconut Grove condo, eyes locked on the monitors streaming live footage from his Coral Gables home. It was Saturday night, the second day of his staged business trip to Atlanta. The cameras had already captured 48 hours of damning evidence. Elena and Mateo Vargas reveling in their scheme, plotting to siphon another $300,000 from the Children's Education Fund, and rehearsing lies for a divorce that would paint Carlos as an absentee husband. Every word, every gesture, was backed up on his encrypted servers, a digital net tightening around them. Valeria Cruz, his lawyer, reviewed the footage beside him, her tablet filled with timestamps and legal notes. This is enough to sink them, she said, but we need to seal it publicly. Your anniversary party is the perfect stage. Carlos had proposed the idea himself, a grand 10th anniversary celebration at Miami's Versace mansion, a venue Elena couldn't resist flaunting. She'd spent the week planning, texting him about menus and guest lists, oblivious to his true intent. She thinks it's her victory lap, Carlos said, voice steady but laced with resolve. Let's make it her reckoning. Diego Morales, the forensic accountant, chimed in from his laptop. I've traced another $50,000 moved yesterday to Mateo's shell company. They're getting bolder, thinking you're gone. Carlos nodded, his cybersecurity instincts kicking in. Good. The more they act, the deeper they dig their own grave. By Sunday evening, the cameras had recorded 67 hours of evidence, including a chilling moment where Elena practiced a tearful courtroom speech, claiming Carlos' work obsession left her emotionally abandoned. Mateo coached her, suggesting she mention Sofia's bedtime routines to guilt the judge into granting custody. Carlos' stomach churned, but he stayed focused. He returned home that night, suitcase in hand, playing the weary traveler. Elena greeted him with a rehearsed hug, asking about Atlanta while Sofia bounced over, eager to show him a new soccer trick. Missed you, Poppy, she chirped, oblivious to the tension. Carlos knelt, ruffling her hair. Missed you more, Princessa. Elena watched, her smile a perfect mask, unaware the cameras were still rolling. Monday morning, Carlos met Valeria and Diego at their downtown office. Diego spread out new evidence. Emails between Elena and Mateo detailing forged invoices, plus bank records showing $550,000 total diverted to offshore accounts. They're planning to flee after the divorce, Diego said, pointing to a flight itinerary for Aruba, booked under Mateo's name. Valeria laid out the strategy. At the party, we exposed them in front of witnesses, family, friends, charity board members. We play the memo and key footage, then signal the police. I've coordinated with Agent Lopez from Financial Crimes. They'll be waiting. Carlos agreed, his mind mapping every detail like a firewall algorithm. I want Sofia at her abuela's that night, he said. She doesn't need to see this. The week raced by, Elena throwing herself into party preparations with glee, texting Carlos about floral arrangements and a string quartet. She suggested inviting Mateo, since he's been so helpful with the charity. Carlos suppressed a bitter laugh, replying, Great idea. Let's make him feel welcome. He spent his evenings with Sofia, helping with homework and reading bedtime stories, each moment fueling his determination to protect her future. Behind the scenes, he synced the camera feeds to a tablet, ensuring seamless playback at the event. Valeria secured a private dining room at the Versace mansion, wired for audio and video, with a screen ready to display the evidence. Friday evening arrived, the air thick with Miami's autumn humidity. The Versace mansion's dining room buzzed with 25 guests: Carlos' parents, Elena's sister, Sophia's godparents, and key charity board members. Mateo arrived last, shaking hands with a confident grin, unaware he was walking into a trap. Sophia was safely at her grandmother's, spared from the night's unraveling. Elena flitted among guests, playing the radiant wife, her laughter echoing as she toasted with champagne. Carlos stood, glass in hand, and raised it for a speech. 10 years ago, Elena and I vowed to build a life together. He began, his voice warm but deliberate. Tonight, we celebrate love, trust, and truth. But first, I want everyone to see what those vows really mean to her. He tapped his tablet, and the room's speakers crackled to life. Elena's voice filled the space. Mateo, I wish Carlos would just drop dead so I can cash out. He's clueless. Gasps rippled through the guests. Elena's glass trembled, her eyes darting to Carlos. He pressed play on the next clip, surveillance footage of her and Mateo in the living room, toasting with his wine, plotting the next theft. Another $300,000, and we're gone, Elena's image sneered. I'll play the victim, get Sophia, and take half his money. Mateo's recorded laugh followed. To the dumbest tech mogul in Miami. The room froze. Elena's sister clutched her husband's arm, horrified. A board member whispered, "She stole from the kids?" Carlos switched to a final clip. Elena practicing her abandoned wife sob story, Mateo nodding approvingly. "Turn it off," Elena shouted, lunging for the tablet, but Carlos stepped back. "You don't get to hide this," he said, voice like steel. He placed a thick envelope before her, divorce papers, asset freezes, and a criminal complaint. The dining room doors opened, and Agent Lopez entered with 2 officers. "Elena Rivera, Mateo Vargas, you're under arrest for embezzlement, wire fraud, and conspiracy," Lopez announced, cuffs gleaming in the chandelier light. Elena's pleas echoed as she was led away, Mateo silent behind her. Guests sat stunned, the quartet's music long stopped. Carlos addressed the room, calm but resolute. "This wasn't just about me. She stole from kids who needed that money for college. I'm sorry you had to see this, but truth matters." His father gripped his shoulder, eyes wet. "You did right, Mijo." As the police vans pulled away, Carlos felt the weight of the night settle, not victory, but necessity. The trap had sprung, and justice was closing in. The Miami-Dade County Courthouse loomed under a gray October sky, its steps swarmed by reporters as Carlos Rivera arrived for the divorce hearing. 2 weeks had passed since the Versace mansion ambush, where he'd exposed Elena's affair and theft before family and friends. The media had latched onto the story, tech mogul's wife caught stealing from children's charity. Carlos ignored the cameras, his focus razor-sharp. Inside, he met Valeria Cruz, his attorney, whose briefcase held a meticulously compiled case. Bank records, surveillance clips, and the voice memo that had shattered his world. "They have no defense," Valeria said, her voice steady. "Elena's team will try to spin it, but the evidence is bulletproof." In the courtroom, Elena sat beside her lawyer, her posture rigid, eyes fixed on the table. Mateo Vargas, her accomplice, was absent, detained separately on federal charges. The gallery buzzed with onlookers, charity board members, local journalists, and Carlos' parents, their faces etched with disappointment. Judge Elena Torres, known for her no-nonsense rulings, entered, and the room fell silent. Valeria opened with a surgical strike, presenting the voice memo first. Elena's recorded words echoed, "I wish Carlos would just drop dead so I can cash out." The judge's pen paused, her gaze sharpening. Valeria followed with surveillance footage, showing Elena and Mateo plotting to siphon $300,000 more from the Children's Education Fund and rehearsing lies for a custody battle over Sophia. Diego Morales, the forensic accountant, took the stand, detailing $550,000 in stolen funds traced to Mateo's shell company, Bright Futures Initiative. The money moved through layered accounts, he testified, projecting transaction logs. It ended in offshore investments under Elena Rivera's name, with Vargas taking a 20% cut. Hotel receipts and email exchanges, pulled from Mateo's decrypted phone, mapped a 2-year affair intertwined with the fraud. Valeria closed her presentation with a timeline, showing Elena's deliberate steps to falsify charity reports while playing the devoted wife. Elena's lawyer, Javier Pena, attempted a counterattack, claiming she acted under duress, driven to desperation by Carlos' relentless focus on his career. He painted her as a neglected spouse, seeking solace in Mateo's friendship, her financial missteps a result of emotional turmoil. My client made errors in judgment, Pena argued. But this is a divorce, not a criminal trial. She's still Sophia's mother. Valeria didn't flinch. She played a new clip from the home cameras, Elena laughing as she forged a board member's signature on a transfer approval. This isn't distress, Valeria said. This is premeditated theft from children who needed that money for college. Judge Torres called a recess, and Carlos stepped outside, the weight of the morning pressing on him. Sofia was with her abuela, painting pumpkins for Halloween, unaware her mother's fate was being decided. He texted his mother to check on her, receiving a photo of Sofia, smiling with orange paint on her nose. It steadied him. Back in court, Pena shifted tactics, proposing a settlement. Elena would relinquish custody and asset claims if criminal charges were dropped. Carlos, through Valeria, rejected it outright. She used Sofia as a bargaining chip in her scheme, he whispered to Valeria. I want full custody, and I want justice. Valeria called her final witness, Agent Sofia Lopez from the Financial Crimes Division, who confirmed the case's referral to federal prosecutors. We've uncovered additional transfers initiated post-arrest, Lopez testified, presenting fresh bank records. Mrs. Rivera attempted to move $50,000 from a hidden account last week, likely to fund her legal defense. The gallery murmured, and Judge Torres leaned forward. These are serious allegations, she said. I'm granting Mr. Rivera's requests, full custody of Sofia, complete asset protection, and a divorce decree effective immediately. The financial evidence is referred to the district attorney for criminal review. Elena stood, voice trembling. Please, Your Honor, I love my daughter. I made mistakes, but I'm not a monster. Torres' eyes were unyielding. Your actions suggest otherwise, Mrs. Rivera. Stealing from a charity and plotting against your child's future undermines any claim to motherhood. As bailiffs escorted Elena out, Carlos caught her glance, pleading, then defiant. He turned away, his thoughts on Sofia's soccer game tomorrow, her laughter, her trust. The courtroom cleared, and Valeria placed a hand on his shoulder. You've got Sofia safe now, she said. The feds will handle the rest. Outside, Carlos spotted Agent Lopez near a side exit, reading Mateo Vargas's rights as he was led to a van. The media swarm grew louder, but Carlos slipped through, driving to his mother's house to pick up Sofia. She ran to him, clutching a painted pumpkin. Is Mommy coming home soon? She asked, eyes wide. Carlos knelt, choosing his words carefully. Mommy's made some big mistakes, Princessa. But you and I, we're a team, okay? She nodded, hugging him tightly. The road ahead would be tough, but Carlos knew he'd shield Sofia from the fallout, one steady step at a time. 3 months after the courtroom showdown, Carlos Rivera stood on the steps of the Miami-Dade County Courthouse, Sofia's small hand in his. The January sun cast long shadows across the bustling plaza, where reporters had dwindled to a few persistent stragglers. The federal trial against Elena and Mateo Vargas had just concluded, its verdict sending ripples through Miami's news cycle. Charity fraud scheme ends in prison sentences. Carlos, now 36, had shielded Sofia from the media glare, keeping her days filled with school, soccer, and quiet evenings of board games. Today he'd brought her along, not to witness the sentencing, but to mark a turning point, a promise of stability after the storm. Inside the courthouse, Judge Maria Delgado had delivered the final ruling with clinical precision. Elena faced 6 years in federal prison for embezzlement, wire fraud, and conspiracy, her plea for leniency dismissed after prosecutors played a new recording, Elena directing Mateo to hide assets post-arrest. Mateo received 8 years for money laundering and establishing fraudulent nonprofits, his attempt to pin the scheme on Elena's influence collapsing under evidence of his active role in every transaction. Carlos had sat in the gallery, his presence a silent testament to the kids whose college dreams Elena's theft had jeopardized. Valeria Cruz, his attorney, handed him a file as the gavel fell. The charity's recovered funds, now restored to $550,000, ready to support its mission again. Back on the courthouse steps, Sofia swung Carlos' hand, her voice bright. Can we get ice cream, Poppy? The kind with sprinkles? Carlos smiled. her resilience a balm to the ache of the past months. Sprinkles it is, Princessa. They walked to his car, passing a newsstand where headlines blared. Tech CEO reclaims justice. Carlos ignored them, his focus on Sophia's chatter about her science fair project, a model of the solar system she'd built with her abuela. The betrayal that had shattered his trust in Elena hadn't touched Sophia's spirit, and he'd vowed to keep it that way. At home in Coral Gables, Carlos had dismantled the hidden cameras. Their purpose served. The house felt lighter, filled with Sophia's drawings and the hum of routine. He'd hired a new charity director, a meticulous educator named Clara, to oversee the Children's Education Fund. Clara's first act was to launch an audit, ensuring every dollar reached its intended recipients. Carlos poured his energy into a new project, a free online course teaching kids cybersecurity basics, inspired by his own expertise and Sophia's curiosity about his work. "Can I learn to catch bad guys like you, Poppy?" she'd asked, watching him code. "You'll be better than me," he'd replied, grinning. The fallout from Elena's actions lingered in small ways. Sophia asked about her mother less often, but when she did, Carlos answered honestly, gently. "Mommy made some wrong choices, but she still loves you. She just can't be with us right now." He enrolled Sophia in art therapy, where she painted her feelings, bright colors for her days with Carlos, darker shades for the confusion Elena left behind. The therapist's reports were encouraging. Sophia was adapting, her trust in her father unshaken. Carlos' parents moved closer, their weekly dinners a new anchor, filled with laughter and Cuban recipes. One evening, as Carlos tucked Sophia into bed, she handed him a drawing. Two stick figures under a rainbow, labeled Poppy and Me. "We're a team, right?" she asked, eyes searching his. "Always," he said, kissing her forehead. The weight of Elena's betrayal had forged something stronger, a bond with Sophia that no lie could break. He stepped onto the balcony, the Miami skyline glittering in the distance. The charity was thriving again, its scholarships funding dreams for dozens of kids. His company had landed a $5 million contract, a testament to his focus amid chaos. Valeria called later, her voice brisk. The Fed seized Elena's offshore accounts. Every cent's back in the charity's coffers. "You did more than win, Carlos, you rebuilt." He thanked her, hanging up as Sophia's soft snores drifted from her room. The pain of betrayal hadn't vanished, but it had fueled purpose. Carlos opened his laptop, drafting a press release for the cybersecurity course launch, dedicating it to the kids who deserve a secure future. Justice had prevailed, not through vengeance, but through truth and action. As he typed, Sophia's drawing lay beside him, a reminder that love, not deceit, would define their path forward.